Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Walk of the Dog Cinema. Here we have the Roca, as you can see, rearing to go, rearing to get going, get on her walk, and explore the great outdoors here. She's been cooped up waiting for me to get home from work and get out and about so she can stretch her legs and get a nice walk here. She's been playing with her buddy Jonesy, but as you can see, it's trash day around here. But besides all the playing with her friend Jonesy, she loves her walks. And today we are going to discuss a John Woo action film that I hadn't seen since probably either 92 or 93 on VHS. When I kind of discovered John Woo, Bullet in the Head. It's one of those that kind of saw way back in the day and didn't really remember it, or kind of it didn't totally set in. I don't know if it's because I was just discovering John Woo, but quite a big difference in experience from when you're in your teenage years or early 20s to when you've had some season in your life. So to say this was an interesting watch would be an understatement. So we're going to get going here as Roca is out and about, and we're going to discuss Bullet in the Head. So first things first, Bullet in the Head. As far as John Woo movies go, I enjoyed it on one level, and then there's a level of not enjoying it. And I'm kind of going to phrase that it all depends upon how you view it. As pure entertainment, for me, Bullet in the Head is not enjoyable in that regard. There are some crazy action sequences, but the themes, the kind of overarching premise of the movie is not entertaining in the slightest. You know, I could see how this was deeply personal for John Woo. I've done some reading up on it, and basically, I wouldn't say autobiographical or anything, but I've heard that the two friends that are depicted, John Woo, the director, pretty much uses Benny, Tony Leung's character, as his proxy, and the other two characters, Tony and oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm having a blank there. That one might be Benny, and then there's Richie. Sorry, Tony, Richie, Benny. Duh. So anyhow, Richie's character basically were two friends that he grew up when he had moved due to persecution into the Hong Kong area, basically to get away from the Chinese Revolution that was going on in the late 40s and all that. His parents were Christian, and that wasn't viewed upon very well. And so it's kind of an interesting note, you know, and I'll get into that because there's a lot of like Christian themes in John Woo movies, believe it or not, as violent and action-packed as they are. There's kind of a lot of deep philosophical things for an action movie director to touch upon. And John Woo's always been kind of open about being, growing up as a Christian and being a Christian. So I wouldn't say you can't separate the two. I'm just saying that this movie especially kind of plays in these gray areas. And I just come at it that because he has these views in this regard, I've always kind of admired John Woo knowing good versus evil in very biblical terms, so to speak. And so he always plays in these gray areas using broken men to have a redemptive arc, not necessarily get out of their life of crime, but always do something good. The Killer, Hard Boiled kind of plays around with that on different levels. But The Killer's a really good one. Even a Better Tomorrow, which I haven't seen in a long time, which I want to revisit. This one is through Benny, like I said, where Frankie and Tony in those regards, all three of them are not, I would say, in any way, shape, or form heroes. So not a lot of sympathy really derives from his main characters. But as the movie goes, Benny is the best of the three. And it's really a movie about how friendship deteriorates if you do not at least have some moral code within yourself. And so that becomes an interesting theme through this movie. But man, this movie stayed with me. And that's why I say it's not entertaining. It's not something that I would just consistently watch. It's kind of like Studio Ghibli has Grave of the Fireflies. Fantastic movie. But I wouldn't just call it entertainment. It's not something I could just plop down and watch over and over and over again. One of my favorite directors, Steven Spielberg, I'd put, like Schindler's List. Fantastic movie. Not something that I would just call just pure entertainment, or something for me, myself personally, I could just watch over and over and over again. They're important movies, or they're very symbolic or meaningful, and it's great that they're there and should be watched once. That's where I kind of put bullet in the head. It should be watched once. It's not as tight or structured as, say, John Woo with The Killer, Hard Boiled, even as Once a Thief, or Face Off, or even Van Damme's Hard Target in that regard. This one sits in where it's a little loosey-goosey at times, but because of the three friends structuring and their fall from grace, so to speak, and how they get about to the end, which is deeply impactful, and how it affects all their lives, and it's quite harrowing. And like I said, has this amazing set piece in the middle at the Bolero Club that is just explosive on every John Woo level from an action standpoint. But again, it's about these three friends who want to make it rich in war-torn Vietnam during the Vietnam War of the 60s, while there's a lot of stuff going on in Hong Kong and China in and of itself with political turmoil. We get visuals of Tiananmen Square in this, and some really cool John Woo slow motion. It's very much in that regard poignant, but when they get to Vietnam, like, it's kind of this slow build, and then the action comes an hour into it, like, really comes. Not that there hasn't been action, but like, when you've seen a John Woo film by this time, if you've kind of followed it with Better Tomorrow and The Killer and Hard Boiled, I think comes out shortly after this movie, but because this was made in 1990. But even up to this, you had some crazy action set pieces, just crazy good gun fu movies, right? And this one's kind of building into that, and then you get the Bolero sequence, and it's as explosive as they come, but in such a different way for a John Woo movie. That then it's unrelenting for an hour and 15 minutes. And I mean, it's not just action sequence after action sequence. It's just the tension builds and builds and builds. And we get to a POW camp in Vietnam, and how we get there is crazy. There's a beach shootout with the Viet Cong and the South Vietnamese, and like all these parties coming together. And it's pretty wild. But this POW camp sequence is crazy harrowing, and like really twisted on many levels. And I would even contend anything that like Saw's put out or anything of those, like, it doesn't even compare what poor Richie has to go through in this kind of thing. So I don't want to give it away too much. This one, I don't really want to talk about spoilers, because kind of the thematics of the three friends is very integral, and this one I feel as an audience you kind of need to absorb on that level. It's really the ride with the three, and not so much what's inherently just what the movie is. The MacGuffin is them trying to get their riches in Vietnam, basically, and that whole process is just one after another. It's very melodramatic, and so you're gonna have to put up with a lot of like the melodrama. It's John Woo turned to 11 with some of the slow motion and the melodrama in that, but like I said, it's very deeply personal and quite interesting of a ride, and it sat with me, deeply, where it was just like, wow, what did I just watch? I love John Woo, and this one was a butt kicker. So yeah, and like I said, Woo plays with the morals of the movie in these gray areas. Is very gray to start off with, and then we get to kind of black and white by the end. But even then, not everyone's redeemed, and it's like a downer of an ending, but it also at the same time kind of not. It punches you in the gut, because you kind of realize what the whole movie is about, and I wouldn't call it nihilistic in that regard, but if you don't have your head screwed on right, and you don't have principles of your own, how we get to the end is how it's going to happen, and that's kind of what he's kind of trying to say here, at least to me. So, like I said, for John Woo, it's different on many levels, than anything else he's ever done. So it is interesting to see how personal it was to him. It's kind of his apocalypse now. Has a lot of that kind of feeling with how Francis Ford Coppola went through with that this movie has. I learned, that one of his favorite movies of all time, John Woo's, is Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and so that's where you get a lot of the double gun stuff, and how he incorporated it into his own gun fu style of cinema. But and on some level, this movie kind of tries to play in that a little bit too. So but it's dark. It's darker, much darker, and like I said, it's an interesting watch. But I wouldn't call it great entertainment. And in this time during Christmas time, I wouldn't call it a seasonal movie, to be sure. But if you are into John Woo and you've been kind of on the fence about ever really watching this one, you can never be disappointed with John Woo. For me, even lesser John Woo as an action director is always going to be entertaining. Like I said, he's one of my favorite directors. Ever since I discovered him working at the movie theater when Hard Target came out, it just was so different and so unique of a style compared to anybody else that I'd ever seen. And I just started really getting into, kind of Chinese cinema in that regard, Hong Kong cinema, through John Woo. Kind of got introduced to Jackie Chan movies and Soy Hark movies, and just following along and seeing Donnie Yen, and just kind of really appreciating what Hong Kong Chinese cinema kind of brought back then. And so it was all interesting and explosive. So again, take a look at it. Just forewarn, it's got a packed punch ending that will kick your butt. Leave a comments and let me know what you think of the movie yourself. If anything else that you'd like me to review, leave a comment about that. Otherwise, if you like what you see, please subscribe. Have a good one, everybody.